Thank you, Senor. Very interesting. Last speech of the day, Pedro Prieto Perez.
Thank you very much, Roger. Thank you to everybody for having resisted here up to now. I'll try to not to make it very long, and I would like to take advantage to congratulate to the people, to the online translators for their effort, and to the people who has helped us on voluntary basis, the organizers. There is a number of people, about 8, that they have been working behind the curtains, and they have made this possible. Apologize for the problems of logistics and administrative problems, the problems with the pen drives, which were beyond our control, and I'll try to go ahead with the presentation as soon as possible. Okay, I'll try to make, my presentation will deal with, just to see if wind energy and solar energy will be able to make up the difference with respect to the decline of the fossil fuels that we have seen in ASPO. Most of the speakers have already talked about that, and it seems that it's clear that it's going to be very difficult, and my presentation will go also in this direction. But I would like to put something in perspective. This is what we are consuming today. It's about 12 billion equivalent tons of oil in different forms. About 80% of them are fossil fuels, and this is what is the main cause of what we are emitting now in global emissions, in global CO2 emissions throughout the world, mostly with the more advanced countries. So no need to... and this is another form of viewing the energy expenditure. So on the right side, we have the rich countries. All this data has also been presented, but this is I wanted to present that in watts of energy using the equivalences of the British Petroleum table of equivalences, because this is, I mean, equivalent. For instance, the metabolic energy needs the human body as a naked ape is about 100 watts. The human naked. The human body is like the naked ape is like a machine equivalent to 100 watts power working to average 24 hours a day. And this is just simple 100 watts make us work as a human being. So it's a wonderful machine, very efficient machine. This is the pre-industrial level, about between 500, 300, 500, 600 watts, even 1,000 in modern agriculture or something like that. This is the world average today, is about 2,200 watts per capita for the 6.6 billion people we are living in the planet. And this is what we are consuming in different types of energy. This is oil in gray color, gas, natural gas, coal, nuclear, hydro, and the rest is renewables. So if you see China, for instance, they are slightly below the world average. They are reaching the world average very soon, or they are just in the verge of reaching it, because this is 2007 statistics. Mostly coal, they are very coal-oriented. This is mostly oil-oriented with some gas, and of course, for instance, the case of France with nuclear is very clear. And this is the world. We are us like we are here. Some of them, they are 5% of population and are consuming 23% of primary energy, and some others, they are consuming much less. I could spend the whole presentation just with this slide, because this explains almost many things. This explains why these people is migrating to that areas. This explains why the resources, mainly in those areas, exception made of Middle East, which has here a lot of energy, they are being sent to the other areas. This explains the Pareto principle, in which 20% of the human population is consuming 80% of the energy, and the rest of the other 80% is just consuming 20% of the world energy, and this disparity is creating a lot of problems. So the problem is that the GDP is very much related, the red line is very much related to the energy consumption. So an identity. And the CO2 emissions as well. I mean, there are some singularities here, but normally, another singularity here in Europe, we say that we are more efficient, but sometimes it's because we are outsourcing polluting activities to third world countries. I don't know what I did. Okay. So, in fact, CO2 and GDP are very much related to energy consumption. This is what I wanted to show. And the model is broken. I mean, the model is, we know perfectly that the 2,200 watts world average is not sustainable. We know that very well. We are burning forests, we are exhausting the water resources, we are exhausting the fossil fuel resources and everything. So, it's clear that we have, the people that is here, will have to think in ways of living, of going somewhere here at this level of energy expenditure, because otherwise the planet will not resist. How do we do? I don't have the precise answer, but, and it's going to be very difficult. But what is clear is that if you see George Bush or Rodríguez Zapatero embracing a third world leader and promising him development, don't believe him, because just to reach the European level of living, we'll have to increase 2.4 times the energy consumption in the world, and this is mathematically and physically and geologically not possible. But going to the American way of life, it should be about 5 times. So it's not sensible to do that. And here we are. Could we go forever? This is the duration of the main fossil fuel resources and uranium, and it's about approximate figures, and this is the jump we have been given in the last 150 years. We are the modern man, this is the Homo sapiens, and we are the Homo technologicus, and we are now in the level of 12,000 watts per capita. 12,000 watts means that we were able to live from the human metabolic point of view with one lighting bulb on our head of 100 watts, and these people is living with 120 bulbs lightning on his head. It's like an ambulant circus. So that's the situation. So we have to change this. And this, I like this figure because I learned that from Chris Skrebowski. I heard from him for the first time this. This is what we call the growing gap. And he calls it, and this is what ASPO is thinking that is going to happen. It's going to happen soon with the fossils. This is the view of the business as usual world. This is International Energy Agency. And then this is what we call the oiligator. I mean, this is the growing gap, and this is me exploring what is going to be with the growing gap. You see, and let's see what is going to happen with wind and solar, for instance. First of all, 2 basic principles. The renewable systems, in fact, they are non-renewable systems able to capture renewable energies like wind and solar. But the systems in themselves, they are not renewable. And even renewable sources may end being exhausted if we go beyond the natural renewability rates. This is a list. I'm not going to go through all this list of all the list of renewable energies. What solar and wind mainly are producing today as alternative energies, of course there is solar thermal as well, and it's important, but it's electricity. But if you look to the spaghetti diagrams that they are being produced, this is an excellent spaghetti diagram I took from the oil drum, thanks to the oil drum, which is an excellent web page, is the United Kingdom in 2007. This is the electricity portion of energy in a nation. It's a teeny portion that they are using. They are using more primary energy to produce the electricity, but then most of it is going in losses, and then this is going to useful uses of the energy. I don't know whether this is domestic use, this is and transport use. There is, in transport, electricity is not very much used, it's mainly oil, but this is the main use. So, in principle, the most immediate thing is to replace this with renewables, but the problem is not only in the electricity, the problem is in the whole spaghetti diagram. This is Spain, and how do we do? Well, we have some problems. Previous considerations. The sun and wind does not shine and blow equally for all. I mean, it suns here. This is the solar map of Spain. It's much better in the southern part of Spain than in the northern part of Spain. And then this is the consumption and the production. Consumption is the holes, is the sink sources, and production is where we have the nuclear power plants and the thermal plants and so on. And these are the electricity networks. So if we have sun here, and we have the main electricity networks here and here, then we have to create a whole network over there. If we have wind in the Gibraltar Strait or in La Coruña there, in the Atlantic Ocean, and this is where we have most of the wind, then we have to create new networks as well. And this is expensive, costly, and takes time. This is how do we consume electricity today. This is the base load, is basically covered by nuclear and coal, which are difficult to moderate. I mean, they cannot be switched on and off freely, because they have to work, I mean, they can be stopped on emergency basis or just for maintenance. But normally they are producing up to 20,000 megawatts in Spain. And this is day and night. And the rest of the day, they are being covered with the rest of the energy sources. In these ways, these are the different diagrams from the maximum in one day of the year to the minimum of other day of the year. And this is the problem is that wind is unpredictable. This is the wind in Spain, more or less. This is the chart of one normal day in Spain. We have plenty of wind. We have approximately, we can generate, if the day is very windy, about 10 gigawatts of electricity from the wind. So it's not a bad situation, but the problem is that maybe when we need it here, maybe this day there is no wind, and then we have to look how do we generate. In solar energy, we are approaching much better to the consumption curve. And this is the situation. This is a diagram of Red Eléctrica Española, is the power utility, is the regulator, and they are giving, I mean, electricity is not stored, so you have to switch off and switch on then when the electricity is growing up, the demand is growing up, almost instantly, on demand. I mean, you detect the demand and you have to switch on power plants accordingly, because otherwise the net can be destroyed. How to store? To store is a problem. In Spain, we have pump up consumption. This is what we are consuming in gigawatts hour in a year, and this is what we are pumping up, just 1.6%. So it's very difficult to store the electric energy. So when they are talking to you about storage, take the data, analyze the data. Don't trust the people just by that. I mean, don't take their words for granted. Take the data and see how much can be stored. We have the second most mountainous country in Europe after Switzerland. So we have plenty of possibilities for water reservoirs. In fact, 85% to 90%, or probably even more, of our big basins are already occupied by dams. So there is little potential to grow more in electricity, in hydroelectricity, and there could be some more potential to pump up still from one dam, lower dam, to the upper dam. But it's not so easy to pump up much more than probably 10% of our own generation. And then the rest, how we are going to do. Okay, now I will get into wind energy. This is a graph made, a drawing made by a famous painter about Don Quixote. We have a long experience with wind in Spain. Well, we are limited here. This is an amount of, this is the formula in which we are generating. Basically, what they say, the formula of generating electricity with wind is that generation is proportionally to the square function of the diameter of the blades, but is cubic function of the wind speed. So if you take the wind speed, this is the different classes of wind fields, from class 6, which is the best, to class 1, which is terrible. So this is the average speed, yearly average speed, and this is the megawatts generated. So, for instance, if you have 2.3, which is the one that I'm going to use as an example, 2.3 megawatts wind generator, you may generate 2.2 when it's in nominal, okay, with this type of winds and so on. But if you have to lower to another wind field, which is not very much different in speed, then you may have either to double the number of wind generators to get the same energy, or, well, that's all, because otherwise you will not generate energy. And let's see how does it work. This is an example of a commercial company, Nordex, but I could have put another Spanish one, which is very good, is Gamesa as well. They are now mostly producing 2 megawatts wind generators. This is the state of the art. Even they have shown the 5 megawatts. I will show also the 5 megawatts. But they are not producing a nominal power all the time. They are producing when the speed in kilometers per hour reaches up to here. If the wind in that level, they are producing much less. And if it is over 90 kilometers, they have to put in further position the blades, and they will generate nothing. So in tornadoes and so on, they will not generate nothing. Even the wind has a lot of energy inside. So that's the situation. So it's competitive, it's powerful, it's proven, and it has an ROE that is probably superior to the solar photovoltaics. It's not very polluting. Well, we will see then if it is very polluting or no. But it's intermittent supply, needs conventional backup plants, so this makes less efficient. We are happy because we are now having the backup already installed, so we are not considering that problem. But if we had to reach 100%, then we will have to keep the backup, keep the backup. Just produces electricity, so we have to use carriers, energy carriers, if we are going to solve, or we pretend to solve something from wind in the transport world, for instance. And when going to that beyond, so it's needing the carrying vectors. So the load factor is, although they have mentioned in the Canary Islands, which is a very, although they have mentioned that Canary Islands has 3,500 to 4,000 hours a year of nominal power for the load factor for the wind generators. Normally in the peninsula, in the mainland Spain, this is the ratio and this is the average experience. So in a top-down, it seems that wind is inexhaustible, but you have to analyze. I learned from Pep Puig, which I think is here. He was the first one that taught me that wind is limited. It's about 70 times the present world energy, primary world energy consumption. This is the power of all the winds in all the world at all heights, from ground level to 13,000 meters height. And this is not too much, because if we just were trying to capture one of them of all the moving winds in the planet, we will, this is the top-down analysis that normally is not done by the industry. We could just take, this will be almost impossible, to trying to capture 1% of all the winds in the planet. But all the winds, the 1% will just be 70% of the primary energy, and I think we are very, very far from being able to capture 1% of all the winds in the planet. So they are saying that this is renewable energy. Look, the maintenance policies. So this is a helicopter, and this is the technician going for maintenance. So this is really a hydrocarbon maintenance solution. And this is the blade, which if it is made in fiberglass, is a lot of fiberglass. This is the basic dimension. And this is the 5 megawatts generator that I think Richard was mentioned. I don't know whether Richard or somebody else was mentioned first that it was being produced. This is the generation, the state of the art of the generation in the world. We were, in Spain, we were second in the world after Germany. Germany is 23rd, 23,000 megawatts. Now the USA has already passed us very fast. They are in 20, we are in 15,000 megawatts. We are producing 10% of the electricity, all average, at the end of the year. Germany is also 10, 11. USA is only 1.5, with even more than us, because this is a giant. And then the rest is over here. The total is 102,000 megawatts. And this is about 1% of the world electricity consumption. But what else? Well, another problem, we have been talking about financing, but the developed countries, if you take all these figures and calculate the developed countries, 82% of the world installed base is in developed countries, which have policies which are favoring the installation of wind energies with budgets specifically devoted to the wind energy. So that means that if those budgets were not available, and those budgets are from governments and from societies which are fossil fuel fed, so probably this figure, it will be not 100,000 but 1,000, because really the rest of the world that is not promoting very much is not almost installing anything. Oh my God, 5 minutes only. So this is some more data. I don't know what. Well, I'll go to the summaries. So with respect to wind power, so all the wind power in 2007 was this is the installed base, and it produced 5 times less electricity than the world electricity consumption increased between 2000 and 2007. So what? And the world 23 times less. Okay. So that means 23 times less is just what it was installed in 2007. The world park produced 5 times less. So that seems that the energy consumption of fossil fuels and the increase of the primary consumption, the primary energy consumption is going 23 times faster than the wind power. Just the growth, not the consumption. So we are going to have difficulties. I have many other charts. They will be at your disposal. In solar energy, I will not repeat that. I would like to mention just a couple of things. One of them is that the common belief that prices will go down if we produce massively. That's not true any longer. I mean, we have seen the Ugo Bardi presentation. The more we use material, the more we use steel, concrete, and so on, it's going to be more difficult if fossil fuel energy is not available or is starting to become scarce. So this is the prices, for instance, the prices of collectors of the SPC solar plants. And this, look at the increase of the square meter, 7 euros of a square meter, from 2005 to 2007. And this is the split of how the cost of a typical solar plant in concentration, thermoelectrical plant, this is the cost breakdown, a typical cost breakdown. So, sorry, because I have plenty of data I would like to give you, but there is no time left. This is the Sarkozy plan for the Mediterranean, for concentrated solar power, and I made some calculations that, for instance, material requirements for the Sarkozy solar plant, which is 20,000 megawatts for all the region in wind, in solar concentration plants. 20,000 is what is in Spain today requested to the Spanish government to install just in Spain. 20,000. They have put even bonds to construct in Spain 20,000 megawatts of power in concentrating solar power. But these are the material requirements, which are huge. For instance, they require 50 to 100 cubic hectometers of water to clean and to operate the power plants, the turbines, and to refrigerate the turbines of all the systems that will be installed. They will consume, self-consumption, 3 to 6% of the electricity. 5 to 10% of electricity in transport losses in the loop, because the lines from where the plants are thought to be installed to the main consumption areas are going to be very long. 1.8 to 3 million tons of steel and other metals. Tons of coal to produce the steel. Tons of glass to produce the mirrors. Tons of concrete to produce the foundations. So that's the main calculation. This is a very basic calculation. So it's just unbelievable. This has other technologies. This is through what I would say this is the Stirling engines, which do not require the same technology. They have some advantages, but the weakness is that they are just in training phase. This is a commissioning plant. And now let's go to the solar photovoltaic, if I have given some time. This is the solar photovoltaic plant I have in high concentration, 400 suns, photovoltaic in the village. These are my sheep. So I became farmer now because I have cleared that what Juan has said is going to be true. So I have prepared some meat over there. And well, in solar photovoltaic, for instance, the chariot is going 200 times faster than the solar power horses. So that means that it's even more expensive. This is just one curiosity. Close to the place where you have seen the farm I own, they are developing, they have already connected to the network 20 megawatts of solar photovoltaic with trackers, 2 axis trackers. This is close to a nuclear power plant here of 2 gigawatts. It's not appeared here. It's Almaraz nuclear power plant, 2 units of 1 gigawatt each. So this is 2 gigawatts, and this is 20 megawatts. So we will need 500 times this size, 600,000 square kilometers of solar panels, sophisticated solar panels produced in very sophisticated and complex industries to produce the same electricity than this teeny piece of land. Even I am not a fan of nuclear power plants. And then another problem is that the maintenance is very complex, and when you install this, normally in third world countries, the problem is the maintenance because they are very difficult to be maintained. So the government has been overwhelmed because they prepared 400 megawatts, and now we are going to end this year probably with 1.2 gigawatts of solar power installed. What I want to say is that this has been taken as a financial business, has not been taken in Spain. We have been very successful because we have handled as business as usual, not because we have handled as an opportunity to generate clean energy. There have been even banks, a Spanish bank, that have been offered through their private banking a financial product to their customers, which is photovoltaic plants. So, and this is not logical because the Spanish government is subsidizing 4 out of 5 units of money of the electricity produced. And the banks are financing this because if they finance, then they can recover the investment because they have the guarantees of the state that for the next 25 years they are going to keep this tariff working. So they trust in the Spanish state and they finance. But if you go by yourself, they will not finance anything. And if there were not subsidies, I have some installations, I don't think, I mean, I don't know whether I am out of time, but let's see, this is another photograph of my village. It's a beautiful village, by the way. I have a forest over there and the mountains. You see the mountains, I have water also. This is the chart of Charles Hall. I took the chart of Charles Hall, and this is where he put the ROI of solar photovoltaics in 5. I think he is very optimistic. Within 1 year or 2, I hope I will be able to include the maintenance cost and many other costs of the manufacturing, not only of this type, but all other conventional types of solar photovoltaics, and really they are going to be produced much closer to the ROIs of the ethanol than to what the industry is claiming, that they say that they recover the energy in few months. Sorry, I have many other things. This is just one of the scenarios in growth as usual, and the ASPO, taking the ASPO, and then what it will be required, I don't know, I am out of... this is the typical growth, and then they say, but you are brutal because you are proposing that everything is going to be solar and everything is going to be wind, and the ideal thing is should be a mix. Okay, I have prepared a mix here. I did not abandon oil, natural gas, even coal. I follow the Energy Watch Group recommendations, uranium, hydro. I did a very big increase on the biomass, and then I put here wind and I put here solar with all these criteria, 3% annual growth, the business as usual, what our ministers are still dreaming to have. The technical improvements, I put 1% increase in the improvement, the oil and gas as per ASPO, the coal as Energy Watch Group, nuclear assume that more than doubles, so I'm not being anti-nuclear here, biomass and waste, all these things, wind is going to 100 gigawatts, growing from 100 gigawatts, growing 80% up to year 250, and then 50% of the growing cake, and solar growing from 8 gigawatts, 260% yearly, and then 50% of the cake after 215. The result, and I have ignored the necessary replacement of the renewables, I have ignored the energy spent, the ROI, I have ignored many other things, so, and this is what we will have to spend. This is growth and challenge, no, this is for the, yes. In solar, for instance, we will have to put 12,500 times the present wall installed park. This will occupy 700,000 square kilometers, and the cost will be 600 trillion euros per present places. So these are the two alternatives. Either we go and we do not solve the problem, or we work like the wise frog and try to solve the problem, as Jorge Riechman, who is a philosopher that I don't know whether he's still here, but he mentions, we are not living ordinary times, and what is impossible in ordinary times made unfeasible in extraordinary times. Thank you very much.